Captain James Holt had seen many things in his 20 years aboard the exploration vessel Wanderer, but nothing prepared him for the distress beacon pulsing from the debris field of Theta-7. The wreckage sprawled across 3,000 kilometers of empty space, torn metal glinting like broken glass under the distant sun. His crew worked efficiently, scanning for survivors among the shattered remains of what had once been a colony transport. The odds were grim. In his experience, deep space collisions left no witnesses. "Captain, we have a life sign," his navigator Tom called out, his voice cutting through the bridge's tense silence. "Faint, but stable. Section 42, starboard fragment." James ordered the retrieval immediately. The rescue pod launched, and within the hour, they brought her aboard. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow, her dark hair matted with blood. The medical scanner showed severe trauma, internal injuries that would have killed most people hours ago. But she was alive, fighting with a stubbornness that impressed even the ship's doctor. Her name was Elena Novak. They learned from her identification chip. A xenobiologist traveling to the frontier colonies to study alien ecosystems. 28 years old. No immediate family listed in the database. For 3 days, she hovered between life and death while Dr. Mills worked tirelessly to repair the damage. James found himself checking the medical bay more often than necessary, watching through the observation window as Elena lay surrounded by machines that breathed and pumped and monitored on the 4th day. She opened her eyes. James was there when it happened, reviewing supply reports on a datapad. Her hand moved first, fingers curling slightly, then her eyelids fluttered. Her gaze was unfocused at first, confused, but when it landed on him, something sharp and aware flickered in those green eyes. "You're safe," he said, setting down the datapad. "You're aboard the Wanderer. We found you in the wreckage." Her lips moved, but no sound emerged. Her throat was too dry, too damaged from the vacuum exposure. He brought water, helped her drink carefully. When she could finally speak, her voice was barely a whisper. "The others?" James shook his head. "I'm sorry. You were the only survivor." The pain that crossed her face had nothing to do with her injuries. She closed her eyes, and he saw tears slip down her temples. He gave her space, returning to his datapad, but staying nearby. Sometimes he knew the presence of another person was enough. Recovery took weeks. Elena proved to be remarkably resilient, both physically and mentally. She asked questions about the ship, about their mission, about the crew. She never spoke about the accident, and James never pressed. Trauma had its own timeline. The Wanderer was 6 months from the nearest station, deep in uncharted space on a mapping expedition. Elena had no choice but to remain aboard, and gradually she became part of the crew's rhythm. She helped in the science lab, cataloging stellar phenomena, analyzing mineral compositions from drone surveys. Her expertise in xenobiology proved valuable when they encountered unusual organic compounds on an ice moon. James found himself drawn to her in ways he hadn't expected. It wasn't just her intelligence or her quiet strength. It was the way she looked at the stars through the observation deck windows, as if seeing them for the first time. The way she listened when crew members spoke, giving them her full attention. The way she laughed, rare but genuine, lighting up her whole face. He was the captain. He had responsibilities, protocols. Relationships aboard ship were complicated, often discouraged. But in the vast emptiness of space, with months stretching ahead, human connection became precious. It happened gradually, then all at once. Conversations in the mess hall that stretched long after others had left. Shared watches on the bridge when sleep proved elusive. A hand reaching for another during a moment of turbulence. A kiss in the observation deck under the light of a binary star system. They were careful, discreet. But in the close quarters of a ship little remained secret for long. The crew noticed, but said nothing. They had seen their captain's loneliness, had witnessed Elena's grief transform slowly into something resembling hope. 3 months after they found her, Elena came to his quarters late one night. She looked pale, her hands trembling slightly. "I need to tell you something," she said. James felt his stomach tighten. In his experience, conversations that started this way rarely ended well. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air between them, impossible and undeniable. His mind raced through implications, protocols, medical considerations. They were 4 months from the nearest station now, light years from proper facilities. "How long have you known?" He managed. 2 days. "I wanted to be certain before I told you." He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the fear beneath her calm exterior. Fear of his reaction, fear of the situation, fear of the unknown. She had lost everything once already. Now she faced something entirely unexpected, with no guidebook, no family support, only him. "Okay," he said, and watched her shoulders relax slightly. "We'll figure this out. Together." Dr. Mills confirmed it the next morning. The pregnancy was stable, healthy, approximately 3 months along. By his calculations, conception had occurred shortly after Elena had recovered from her injuries. Her body, having survived trauma that should have been fatal, was now creating new life. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The crew rallied in ways James hadn't anticipated. Tom began researching space births, compiling medical protocols from the database. Engineer Lisa modified one of the empty storage bays into a makeshift nursery. Dr. Mills ordered additional medical supplies from their limited fabrication units. Preparing for every possible complication, Elena continued her work, her body adapting to the pregnancy with the same resilience she had shown in recovery. James watched her change, watched her hands rest protectively on her growing belly, watched her face soften when she felt the baby move. They talked late into the night shifts, making plans that felt both concrete and impossible. Would they stay together after they reached civilization? Would they raise this child on a ship among the stars? What kind of life could they offer? "I never thought I'd have children," Elena admitted one night, lying in his quarters with her head on his chest. "I was too focused on my career, too dedicated to exploration. I thought I had time." "Life rarely waits for our plans," James said, his hand resting on her belly where he could feel the subtle movements within. "Do you regret it? Rescuing me?" He tilted her chin up, meeting her eyes. "Never, not for a second." The baby came early, 2 weeks before they reached the station. Labor was difficult, complicated by the ship's artificial gravity and Elena's still healing body. For 18 hours, James held her hand while Dr. Mills worked, feeling more helpless than he had ever felt commanding a ship. But when he heard that first cry, when Mills placed the tiny, squirming infant in Elena's arms, something shifted fundamentally in his chest. The baby was impossibly small, with dark hair like her mother, and lungs that proved remarkably strong. "We need a name," Elena whispered. Exhausted but radiant, they had discussed options, debated meanings and origins. But looking at his daughter now, feeling the weight of responsibility and love settle over him like a physical force, only one name felt right. "Hope," he said. "Her name is Hope." Elena smiled, tears streaming down her face. "Hope Holt, it's perfect." 2 weeks later, the Wanderer docked at Frontier Station 7. James filed his reports, documented the rescue, the pregnancy, the birth. Fleet Command reviewed everything with typical bureaucratic efficiency. There would be questions, evaluations, possible consequences for protocol violations. He didn't care. Elena stood beside him at the docking bay window, Hope sleeping in her arms, wrapped in a blanket Lisa had sewn by hand. Behind them, The crew prepared for shore leave, their voices a familiar comfort. "What happens now?" Elena asked. James looked at her, at their daughter, at the vast station beyond the viewport where thousands of lives intersected and diverged. The future was uncertain, full of complications and challenges. But it was also full of possibility. "Now," he said, "we figure it out, one day at a time." She leaned against him, and he wrapped his arm around them both. This family he had never planned, but couldn't imagine living without. He had rescued her life from the void, but in doing so, she had rescued something in him he hadn't known was broken. Hope stirred, making small sounds. James reached down, letting her tiny hand wrap around his finger with surprising strength. In her grip, he felt the future pulling him forward into uncharted territory, more vast than any he had explored among the stars. And for the first time in his life, the unknown didn't frighten him at all.